Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to VanCAF Spotlight interview on Juli Majer. Before we begin, I would just like to state that we are doing this interview on the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I'd also like to say that Indigenous lives matter, Black lives matter. We, as Canadians or non-Black folk, need to step up and help protect these people and protect their rights. If you'd like to learn more about land back or land acknowledgement, you can go to VanCAF's website and you can check out Wes Harmon's land acknowledgement comic from this year, or you can check out mine, Cole Paul's, my land acknowledgement comic from last year. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Juli Majer.
Hi, thank you, Cole. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I'm so happy to do this.
Yeah, me too. Sorry. Okay, there. I'm really happy too. Thank you so much for asking me, especially during pandemic times. I haven't really been that active, so it's nice to have a reason to talk with a friend and kind of start thinking about art things again.
Yeah, you're my fifth interview for VanCAF, and you and your art has been brought up at almost every interview.
Oh, really? I mean, it's a lot of friends too, right?
Yeah, that definitely helps. But like even my last interview with Jordan River, he was wearing your shirt.
Oh, I love Jordan. That's so sweet. That's really kind of them. They're like honestly one of the most incredible, amazing like artists, but also people, like just so loving and supportive and generous and kind. Yeah, I love Jordan. They're like the non-human communicator. They're so cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I'm very blessed to call him a friend and a colleague and get to see his art all the time. It's a special feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was so great when him and Chloe came here for VanCAF. We all got to hang out. That was the best.
Yeah, I was so happy that they stayed with us. Speaking of close friendships, I have known you for going on 7 years, or like 8 now, I think.
Do you remember when we first met? I don't remember.
I remember you hanging out at the front of Emily Carr, because we went to Emily Carr together, but we didn't really have any classes together. I don't think so.
I don't think any.
Yeah. Maybe like an art history class when there's like 200 people in the class.
Yeah, the big room.
Yeah, but we never had like a studio course together or anything. But I distinctly remember meeting you in the gallery, like the big center one, and I bought your ceramic zine off of you.
Oh yeah.
And that would have been in 2013.
Whoa, that's wild. So was it like the art sale then?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was the student art sale.
Wow, that's crazy.
You had all your ceramics for sale, and then you also had the zine of like all the ceramics.
Yeah, I was so nervous. That was like the first time I didn't do any fairs or anything at that time. Like that was the first time I like just like sold like a collection of my work or whatever. And especially like the whole ceramic toys, like I started to do those just because like I needed something to like release my anxiety, and that was something that made me really happy. But I didn't like, because Emily Carr really messed up the way I thought about like what legitimate art was. So like I really didn't think that those were legitimate artworks. So I just like made all of these things on the side and made all these like little figures and toys and accessories, and it just made me so happy. And then eventually my teacher was like talking to me about my other projects, and she saw like my little toys I was making. She was like, why don't you just do this? I was like, oh, I could? Is that okay? But yeah, that was really, really fun.
Yeah, I remember like getting the zine from you and flipping through it, and I was just like, wow, there's so many cool artists and like students at Emily Carr at the time. Like it felt very like liberating to like find you and find your work, because I was like, whoa, you made a full color zine. And I thought that was like insane, because I was like, full color is like so expensive, but you
It
have
is
a full zine,
expensive.
and it's like full of ceramic. So it was like, one thing your zine was full color, but the other thing, it was ceramics. And I had never seen a zine in that sort of format where it was like non-traditional. It's not just illustration. It's like, a bunch of photos of your ceramic work.
Yeah,
And,
oh yeah.
and like your ceramics, like some of them you design like really close to each other. So some of your ceramics like do tell stories.
Yeah, they have relationships, like especially at that time, like certain characters would go with other characters, and like they would have certain objects that would like, I mean, it's really hard for me not to like make up little stories and like narratives for whatever I'm doing. It just helps me.
I think it really
Yeah.
shows with your character designs and the things you decide to illustrate and showcase. Like I feel like there's a lot of like artist influence from that. Is there
Yeah.
is there any artists you can say that like really influenced you to push to ceramics?
To ceramics, I'm trying to remember like my especially influences at that time. um I can't remember right now. There was definitely a lot of artists that influenced me to like, I mean, I think the start of me going into ceramics was like also I did it in high school, and I really enjoyed like the tactile method of it, and I liked like yeah, just like making clay and making toys and making little objects and things. But there's definitely artists that influenced that, but I can't remember right now.
Someone that I can think of is Teo Matsumoto, because
Oh yeah.
I remember a lot of your ceramics would have like animal heads as
Oh
like
yeah.
or like your characters you would draw would have like frog heads and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, Matsumoto is an artist I thought of like right away when I saw your work.
Yeah, definitely at that time too. He was a huge, huge influence. Like I think that time I was like really, I maybe was starting to read Sunny. I can't remember when it came out, but I had like Black and White, and I had Go-Go Monster, and just like his ability, like even like his single illustrations, like it told so much about like a character like emotionally, and like he writes so well about adolescence as well, which I really, really love and appreciate, and especially this kind of sadness that comes with adolescence. And yeah, like always adding like these little small details, like what the characters are like drinking or eating or like thinking, and like yeah, his work is incredible.
Yeah, a lot of things you said I feel parallel your artwork and with your storytelling, because you do have characters always sipping on things, and they have like crazy straws or like very colorful like color palette and stuff. It's
Yeah, I think one thing too, why like that kind of stuff is like I grew up reading a lot of like superhero comics. Like my brother read a lot of comics, so I read so much X-Men. I loved X-Men so much. But like the things that I really really liked were like them just hanging out, and I like the kind of like off scenes, which is like something in like Matsumoto's work that he does. Like he'll do like cut frames of just like people just like hanging out, or just like kind of these flashes of daily life.
Mm.
Which, yeah, I think I find those aspects of living like really a lot more interesting than like fight scenes or like whatever else.
Yeah, and another thing Matsumoto does specifically in Sunny is he'll put that bottom circle panel, and it'll be like an insect, or it'll be like a frog or something.
Yeah, or a dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
it's like a quiet moment that had nothing to do with the scene, but it's like that dog or that bug was a part of that scenario, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like for storytelling, it's like everything adds to the story, you know, like atmospherically, and just like there's always like these kind of like side aspects of things that create like whatever has happened in those moments that kind of get pushed aside because you're looking directly at like whatever the story is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that those aspects are like really important of like building atmosphere and character and a world.
Yeah, for sure. To jump back to the early days of our friendship and Emily Carr, I'm curious, how did you get invited to Dunk?
Oh, it was kind of weird. I was dating Will DeRoom at the time, Willie Borg, and he was doing comics for Dunk. And I don't know how long he was doing it for, but I thought it was really cool. And then we went to Lucky's one day together and talked a little bit to Will Anderson. I think maybe that was like my first time meeting him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just talked a little. I probably didn't even talk that much. I was probably just looking around, and then we left. And then Will Anderson messaged Will DeRoom and said like, oh, like if your friend Julie wants, she can make comics for Dunk, because I think he like saw some of my illustrations before or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I started, which was like really really cool because I don't know, I was really in a place at that time where I was trying to just like do my own thing and like have like a new, I don't know, it was like a really really fortunate, like a good outlet that arrived at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I should mention too, Dunk is
Oh
Lucky's
yeah.
newspaper that ran from like 2012 or 2013 to, I want to say, 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe it was around 2015, because that's when, I don't know, did you graduate with me?
I have no idea. I think I graduated 2015.
Yeah, then we would have graduated together. Because I think Dunk was still around after we graduated, but only for like a couple more months.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a local newspaper that Will Anderson was the editor and curator for when he worked at Lucky's, and it would be like tour diaries, and there'd be a 2-page spread of comics, and there'd be articles written from local Vancouver people in the music and art scene. That's where Pizza Punks started.
Yeah.
My story about Dunk is very similar in the sense of I've known Gabe since I was 14.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so he's known me since I was a little kid, and he found out I moved to Vancouver to go to Emily Carr, because I went to Lucky's, it being like one of my first stops when I moved from the Yukon. And I told Gabe that I just moved here and I was going to go to school at Emily Carr and that, you know, etc. I was trying to become a full-time comic person. And I got an email for the 3rd issue of Dunk. So that would have been in October, I think, or maybe November.
That's so cool. It's like the very beginning.
Yeah. And Will asked me to contribute, and then that's where Pizza Punks came from, was
nice.
being asked to do a monthly comic strip. So I was like, oh, I better make something up now.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, we were talking about the other day, but that how consistent, like, it would always be Pizza Punks, you know? And I feel like it was the only comic that was like, oh, what are the Pizza Punks doing now?
Yeah, it was really cool. The rotating artists that were a part of Dunk, it really made me feel like as soon as I moved here, I was a part of a scene, and that, like, I was so welcomed into it right away, you know, because I literally had just moved here and then I was invited to start contributing. So, you know, it was a very nice gesture.
Yeah, that's amazing. That was like, I was so happy to be invited. I think I was like kind of like backing away from the art scene as well, and then to be invited to that, I was like, oh wow, like it's like a cool little community. I can like kind of join in and like every month add a little like comic too.
Yeah, and like Will, you know, he was in the band Weed, and they toured so much. So like the newspaper got around like everywhere.
Yeah, true.
That was kind of the surprising thing to me, because I was getting emails from like people in America telling me how much they loved my comic and how much they loved Dunk and stuff. And I was
That's so
like,
cool.
oh, I guess it's because Will was there last night and was handing out Dunk copies after the show or whatever, you know?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm happy that people liked reading it like out of town too, because sometimes I thought like it was like talking so much about Vancouver. I was like, oh, I hope, you know, like especially the editor's notes.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that it's like so many different cities and places could enjoy it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how far its voice went for as little as it ran.
It was really influential. It was like hugely influential for like DDOOGG too. Like,
yeah, even Matthew brought it up about Forge Art Mag. He was like, yeah, Dunk influenced me.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was impressed to hear that too. So you mainly work in color now, but when I first met you, you were doing these like beautiful thin line like, you know, zine illustrations. This zine's from 2014.
Whoa.
I'm curious, like, the leap from, you know, doing one like single line detailed comics to, you know, jumping to all the way to Stone Star, Bloom, Loop. Yeah, like your work has transformed so much between, you know, the 5 years between these two zines. I'm curious, like, what decided, like, what made you want to go from just doing line work to doing full color?
I think, actually, I think I know the moments. It was when, like, because then I don't know if you ever saw my comic Larval's Dream. It's like, it's also in pencil, and it was like probably 2015, 2016 or something. But that was all like pencil drawings, not much color. It was like one of the first DDOOGG publications. And it was just like soft like pencil graphite. And like I think I just like did it because like I really just loved like the texture of pencil, and like that was what was always accessible for me, like while I was just like doodling and sketching in class or whatever. And then I did Larval's, and we published it and like played with a bunch of different like colored paper and stuff for that. But then it was a trip that I took to Portland, I think, with Christian, and we went to this book stationery store or something, and they had a bunch of like these woodless pencils, like colored pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like got, because like the thing with the graphite pencils is like I was really just obsessed with like how it felt, like the texture while you drew, and like how you could smudge it. And like I used like Blackwing pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I tried these Near pencils, I just found them, and I just got obsessed with like how they felt, and like how they like felt like the texture onto the paper. And then that just became my new obsession. And then like for that trip, it was like my comfort that I would just like use pencil crayons, and like yeah, like just started to kind of like transfer into like using like more and more colors, and having that as like, I don't know, whenever I'm like doing a project, I kind of like usually switch like whatever type of medium or like pen or pencil I'm doing. So I think that was my switch. And then I started to just get like to learn that like using different colors kind of created its own relationships, and like it created its own like I don't know, it just like expanded a lot more for me. And then I would do things like purposely pick like 5 colors, like pick my palette at first, and then use those basics. And then like while you use them, you like start to like realize you should be using, like it's like kind of like math equations, you know, like you start to think like, oh, now I have to like balance it out by using like some orange, or like kind of like shift through it. So I think, I don't know if that's like answers the question, but that was like kind of the most significant shift, I think, for me.
Yeah, I would say so, because one thing I found about your older line work illustrations was like how soft and delicate everything looked like.
Yeah,
And
I was obsessed with that.
like you're really good at illustrating that, but with your pencil crayons and your watercolor work and stuff, it's like you've like turned that up like by like 3 dials. Like now you've been able to really incorporate so many different textures, you know, that you can build with your soft pencil crayons, right? And like I remember having a conversation with you once, like you posted an illustration of like like an alien girl, and I kept on telling you about how wet she looked, and I was like so impressed by how wet she looks. Like she looks like she is drenched in water right now.
I love that.
Yeah. So as a reader, it's like really enjoyable to have seen your work grow from, you know, XA, the zine, to you know, your future work now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think definitely texture is really, really important to me. And then like using colors, I just realized, oh, I could, you know, make more textures, or like, you know, play around with that like even further.
Do you think collaborating and, you know, being 1/4 of Puddle Popper, do you think that influenced you at all into going into like crazy textures?
Yeah, I think it definitely expanded it, because it's like with Puddle Popper, it's so fun because like we're all kind of have such, I mean, we're like, we all join in like a very specific way, but we all are very different. And then like to see the result of like such varying like worlds, and such varying like, I guess like textures and things, like to all just come together and be like, oh, it's like, it's great, you know, like it's like all of this just keeps adding and adding to one another, and it just kind of makes things more complex, and I love complexity. So yeah.
Yeah, I know that you're really good friends with Mel.
Yeah, and Mel is the person I first ever collaborated with, like with our sculpture projects in our in the grad show. I don't know if you saw our
Yep.
installation.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was so great because like Mel was like one of my very first friends in Emily Carr, and they took painting and then I took sculpture, so we like didn't really see each other that much for like probably like a couple of years. Especially like our studio practice didn't like converge because Emily Carr is very like
separate.
Yeah. So then at the very end, like the grad show, like we realized, that our installations were in the same room and they were like right next to each other, or like maybe we picked it to be right next to each other. And we like both had installations that were a collection of like objects that we've made, sculptures throughout like our year. And we did both of our installations next to each other, and we like both backed up and we were looking at it. And then I think Mel like looked over at me and then walked over and grabbed one of my pieces or their pieces and like put it onto the other person's side. And then we were like, woo. And then we just like played around the whole day and just like mixed everything together and just like, yeah, made, I don't know, just like played around and had fun, and it like worked out so well. And then even like when they came to ask us what our installations were called, mine was called Soft Stay and Mel's was called Safe Play, and it just like worked out, like we're just meant to be. And yeah, that's like kind of the moment where I really like, I don't know, appreciated collaboration, I guess.
Yeah, I think like your and Mel's relationship, I think that also probably helped push you into doing new textures and doing color work and stuff, because Mel's paintings are, you know, like so bright and beautiful, and yeah, just I don't know, I think it makes perfect sense knowing both your work, that you would influence each other so much.
Yeah, I was also doing like on my sculptures, I did like ceramic pieces. I would play with a lot of pastels, like chalk pastels, and like color it in like kind of like child like little sketches and like smear it around and stuff, and that was really, really fun. Yeah, Mel's the best. Mel is my soulmate, my art soulmate for sure.
Whose idea was it to do like a pop-up zine for Puddle Popper? Because that was like one of your first collaborations, wasn't it?
Right. The like on pink paper, right?
Yeah, with Moniker Press.
I don't know whose idea it was, but I think it happened quite naturally because we all make our own zines. Like Mel made their own zines, like I think before I started making zines too, like them and Sam like were making a lot of zines. And Sonia had like a long like collection of zines that she self-published, and I think Sarah was like just starting to work with Moniker and make like things. And then we had like me and I had access to a risograph that was like really shitty and broken, but we were like, oh, we should just make it. And yeah, or that was our first one before the Moniker one. Yeah, and it was a bunch of exquisite corpse drawings that we did, and like collaborations that we just like had fun with.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool idea to make a interactive zine that way, where, you know, the reader has to like pop up all these characters onto the page, and it's like a zine installation.
Yeah, that's what for the Moniker one I really loved, because like that's how we worked, you know, like we all made our collection of our own objects and like collaborate on some, but then we like where it really comes together is like the aspect of like kind of playing around and creating like relationships between the objects. And yeah, to let like the viewer do that, I think is really fun.
I'm curious about like the origins of DOOGG, and I know today you announced that DOOGG is, you know, retiring for the foreseeable future, but
yeah, we put him down for now. It's in the ground. Sorry.
Oh, it's, it's brand new news. It was announced today. Uh, but I'm curious, like, if today's the death day of dog, do you remember the birthday of dog?
Yeah, I do for sure. Because it was, I don't know if you know this, but it was in my very last class at Emily Carr that was taught by Justin Langlois and Megan Waxer. Um, it was on artist collectives, and the whole thing, yeah, I think it was just artist collective class. And then in the first class, you had to make your collective. Like you did like a little speed dating thing and like met a bunch of people. And then yeah, you made you had to just decide who you want to be with. And that was the first day I met Christian too. And I knew Tyler, so yeah, we ended up being in group with them and Cole Blazin and Lucy. And I think the like second class or I don't know if it was the first class or not, but like Tyler did publishing, and eventually we decided like we wanted to make a website where we showcase people's work, and we wanted to make it a website so it could be like more accessible, and we could also join people who were already graduated from Emily Carr or like in Emily Carr or like not in Vancouver, and just have like a wide range of like music and art and everything. And yeah, I think like the next week we were like had to decide what to call it, and nobody was saying anything, and I was just like, I like dogs, like we could call it Dog, and then we called it Dog. So yeah, yeah, that's how it was formed. And then eventually like me and Tyler and Christian just kept going with it, and like kept publishing it, and making it more into like a publishing and like press kind of thing.
I've always imagined the name dog came from like a dog being your companion.
Yeah, I like that.
Like the book is your companion, or whatever you're doing with dog is like the companion to your life. And that's kind
Yeah.
of how I've always like analyzed the name dog. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that the origins are just from you loving dogs.
Yeah, I mean like because then when I said it, Christian was like, oh yeah, like underdog, or like kind of like gave it more meanings, but for me I really was just like obsessed with dogs.
Yeah, both of us, we're putting so much meaning into your name.
It's great, I love it.
I'm curious, like, what's it like living with Christian, but also, collaborating with him? Like,
Right.
do you find it easier, the fact that you live with each other, or is it kind of like you date each other, so you're kind of like you're more like not scared, but like you're more cautious of I don't know, rocking the boat or something, or is it kind of more like you know him so well that you can rock the boat as hard as you can, and it won't phase him?
Yeah, I don't know, like we've I guess dogs started before we started dating, but like we started dating pretty shortly after it started, so it's pretty much been like the whole time, like this is just the relationship I know, is like a working kind of relationship as well as like a partnership. I think it's like good. Like I'm always very real with him. It's good because like I can be very real with him about like my emotional levels as well, or like when I need to like kind of step aside, which is really good. Sometimes it could be like sometimes when we were really like in it, like when we had like a book fair was coming up and we had to prepare for it, and like we would just go to the studio like every day or like every other day, and then like when we weren't at the studio, like Christian would be talking about like paper choices and like all of these things where I'd have to be like, okay, Christian, like let's pause it for a second with all of like the book stuff. But I don't know, I think it worked really well. Like we're both very, very different people too. So I think that it works a lot. Like how we're really different. Like I'm very emotional and Christian's not as emotional, and he's very like obsessive about like design details, and like he's very detail oriented and things like that. So I think we like balance each other pretty well most of the time.
So I know you're really into toys and miniatures.
Yeah.
And, I'm really curious what the influence of Cupies have to your artwork.
Oh, a surprise question. This wasn't on the sheet. I love Kewpie a lot. I don't know. I just like grew up enamored with this weird cherub baby thing, and like it's like big eyes and everything, and like especially I guess like I really am influenced by like packaging of snacks and like of like you know, like Pico-chan as well, and just like, you know, even like Hello Kitty Sanrio is like hugely influential, and just like I'm really influenced by like snacks and packaging, and these are all like things that like I collect too as like comfort. So I kind of like, even the amount of joy and comfort I get with Kewpie like is something I like to emulate, you know, in my work. But yeah, and also like I guess Kewpie is like a really cool character to be like used you know, like in kind of weirder ways or like more experimental ways too, because it's like this influential like cute figure, and then like you know, like bondage Kewpie or like, you know, like gross Kewpies or whatever. Like I really love that.
Yeah, there's this whole culture of you know, mashing something with Kewpie.
Yeah,
like you said, like bondage and Kewpie, or it'll be like strawberries and Kewpie.
yeah,
Or,
Kappa
yeah,
Kewpie.
or Kappa and Kewpie. So yeah, it's very interesting, you know, to see that culture, but also recognize it in your artwork.
Yeah, do you still see the Kewpie in my artwork?
Definitely in your older work. I think
Yeah.
if I flip through, you know, Starstone, Bloom Loop, I think you can see the eye work. Oh, there's a cherub right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, angels and cherubs, are really important to me. And like, and Kewpie is like really like this kind of like weird alien, like, you know, non-human figure that I really look up to.
Yeah, very iconic.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, like you mentioned before, going to the studio with Christian. Do you still have that studio, or you work from home now?
I still have the studio, but I definitely mostly work from home. Especially, I mean, we would go to the studio a lot for bookmaking, and like assembling and everything. And like Dog hasn't really been doing much of that like in the past like few years, so we haven't been using it as much. And my drawing practice is pretty like home based. Like I really need to be like very comfortable and in my own space, and it's usually something like I'll end up doing throughout the night. So even when I did go to like my studio at 222, I would kind of like do specific things like to bookmaking there, and then usually like my drawing practice, like I would do just like in my bedroom. I mean, which is like our apartment is just one room, but yeah, I always have to get in like a very particular zone. It's hard for me to get to, but I have to usually be on my own for it.
Yeah. Is that a Broken Rezo? Is that still at the studio?
No, the first one we had, which was like late cuts, like Tyler and Hugo and Liam's. Yeah, okay, that's like, I was just thinking about that too, because that's the first thing I was in. That's such a weird memory of going to that too. That was like my kind of like first thing of being like in a Vancouver scene. I don't know. But yeah, that's long gone. That was a horrible machine because like I really hurt my back using it. Because you had to like restart it every single time you have to insert each page individually, and then you restart the machine, and then it goes through, and you have to run to the other side and grab it. Because I think like, yeah, you had to grab it out of the machine and then go place it somewhere else to dry, and then you just do that over and over again, and it was a really big pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's a workout.
Yeah, it was like, I did this one book, How Do You Feel, which was like a little calendar full of moods, all by myself there, and I just like, my back hurt so much after it. But then we had a risograph that was working a little bit better, that we bought from somebody else, but I think Christian just sold it because taking a break from publishing and stuff.
Yeah.
And definitely like, yeah, we started to our last publications, we would outsource like our printing, which yeah, worked out better for us.
Yeah, because Color Code was collaborating with you guys, right?
Yeah, we did JG's beautiful zine with Color Code, and that was amazing. And we also worked with Cold Cube to do one of News work, Cappy, which is incredible. It's really nice because like you work with like other publishers, so doing joint publications, it's like, I don't know, we could support one another too.
Yeah, I'm kind of learning that stuff right now, being with a publisher finally, and yeah, it's a big relief when you're collaborating with someone, especially when they know what they're doing. And
yeah,
when the collaborative work is like, I don't know, like with risograph printing, like you said, it's a lot of work. So it's really nice to, have someone else do it for you, especially when they have a machine that works properly.
Yeah, and they've been doing it for years. That was like the really cool thing working with, because I really never thought, I had a really hard time working, like if I did anthologies with that were getting risograph printed, and they needed to be like specific colors you had to use, and like I don't work digitally, so it was like really hard for me to kind of restrict myself with colors.
Right.
So I always thought like my work could never like really work translated to like risograph printing, but then it was like great working with Color Code, because like I was like, are you sure like I could just do the drawing and send it to you and then you'll separate the colors? And they were just so chill, and they're just like, yeah, sure, no problem, we got it. And they did it beautifully. So
yeah, they did a really good job with the book. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Have you ever wanted to collect all your work before, or like, make a book that's like in theme of a bunch of stuff?
I've never wanted to do that before, because I'm really bad at like, even like now, I don't think I have like one of each of my publications or anything, because like whenever I would make a publication, it would be so last minute for like whatever book fair we're doing, and I would just like not want to look at it or see it afterwards, because like it was such a stressful experience. But I'm starting to feel like that would be cool. I just never feel like I'm ready. Like I still don't feel like I'm ready, and like feel like I have like imposter syndrome, and like like even like doing like I'm pretty burnt out now because like the past like few years doing like commission stuff, like even I'm so like honored people ask me, but like my first thing I always think is like, oh, like I'm not ready, like you should ask me in like a couple years kind of thing. But
Right.
yeah.
I think you're very prolific, and I know it's like an internal thing about imposter syndrome, but I think your artwork is very established. I was literally talking to a guy yesterday in New Zealand, and he
Oh,
told me how much he loved your work.
wow, who
Yeah.
was it?
His name's Fergus.
Wow, that's so kind. Thank you,
Um,
Fergus. I
yeah,
can't believe they saw my work.
yeah. He was told me that he discovered my work through the beguiling, and then he also discovered your work through the beguiling as well. Uh,
Whoa.
and then he asked me where I was from, and I was like Vancouver, and he was like, I think Juli Majer lives there too, and I was like, yes, yes she does. She's a close friend of mine actually. And then he kind of like geeked out over you.
Oh, that's so kind. Yeah, I think I've just always had it like since I was a child, like just avoiding that kind of stuff or like feeling kind of like embarrassed, but it's really, really kind.
Selfishly, I want a collection of your work because when I was
Oh,
making this list of questions for this interview, um, I realized I was missing a bunch of your zines that I know I have. So they're most likely in the Yukon at my parents' place because I would return home for the summer when I was at Emily Carr. So I have a feeling that there's a box of your comics at my parents' place. Because I know I have like double the amount of zines. Like I only found like 4 or 5 zines out of my huge zine pile, and I was like, I know I have more. And then I was thinking about how convenient it would be to just have everything in one book on the shelf that I could just grab and, obsessively read and admire your work all the time.
okay, one day I'll make it for you, Cole.
Oh,
Just for
yeah.
you.
An
Yeah.
edition of one just for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like in other artists, like that's always what I really admire is like seeing the early work and like just seeing like an artist's progress as well. Like that's why like I love those collections.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just hard to apply to yourself because you just see it and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely one of those things where I feel like you have to be distant from it to like really appreciate it and want to do something with your old work. I've kind of
Hmm.
realized that with Pizza Punks because I was so over it by the time I finished it, and I was like, wanting to work on DDOOGG Warriors and stuff like that. But now that I've gone back because I'm doing the collection, I'm like, maybe these comics aren't as shitty as I remember them. Maybe they are like, kind of funny,
Yeah, I think
are worth
distance.
reprinting.
Yeah, definitely. I think distance is really, really important. Because I have it all the time where like I'll finish a drawing and I'll just spend so long like looking so close at this drawing and like only seeing that, and like it starts to like look like nothing to me because it becomes too much of myself, and like I don't see that, like I don't see what it actually is. And then like a couple weeks will go by and then I'll just be like, oh, I'll just be like, I'll just see it in a totally different way. Or like Christian actually helps me a lot with that. That's like one thing that like to have him as a partner, like collaborator, because like we did a dog bag where he just like looked through my sketchbook and he found like a drawing that like I just abandoned, and he was like, oh, can I use this like for the tote bag? And I was like, oh, okay, sure, like if you think it's okay. And then he like designed it with like the logo and everything, and like yeah, like created the design for it, and he just gave it a new life, which was like really great because it's just there's so many things that I just abandoned, but it helps so much to have somebody to like come and help and bring it a new life, or like help you see it in a different point of view.
Yeah, I think Christian has a really good eye for those sort of things. And the longer I've known him, the more I recognize it, and like the way he looks at things and the way he like reads into stuff, you know. Yeah, he's really good for picking out those sort of things. I'd love
Yeah,
to have conversations with him.
yeah, I think it works really well with my personality that's like always trying to like avoid those things and run away from them, but he helps me kind of like slow down, and it's like helped me trust other people more too, like not just him, but like how, like not to just like kind of know like I am telling myself things that aren't totally real, and that I have to like trust like other people's opinions too, and like that helps like create my reality, which is really helpful.
I have one more question before we take off, and
Okay.
how serious do you take science fiction?
I take it very seriously. Science fiction is really, really important to me, especially because when I was at Emily Carr, I really just thought I was so stupid, and that I was like, I couldn't read, and that I was like, because you know, you read all of these like, and like I was a student too, so like it just was like a bad combination of me like only wanting to do studio classes, not do any academic things. But like after school, I really just thought like, oh, I'm not like capable of like reading anything, or like like, you know, understanding things about like kind of larger concepts. And then I started to read science fiction. I started to read, I think, first Ursula K. Le Guin, and it was like this amazing, accessible like thing that like it discussed so much like about like so many things, like through like world building and through like, you know, these other perspectives that like, yeah, it helped me access like kind of these like concepts and theories and these worlds, and like it just like it gave me like the ability to like read and like be interested in these things. So yeah, it's hugely important. And like yeah, like I mostly like am very interested in like soft science fiction, and like science fiction that's more focused on like social, political, and like kind of the effects of like certain technology onto like everyday people. Like yeah, Ursula K. Le Guin and Octavia Butler is like my ultimate favorite writer in the world, and she's able to like speak about so many things like, you know, happening in the world, but like through like these different worlds that she builds, which I think is to talk about things indirectly like that is like really important. And like I think to deliver these messages through like storytelling and world building, like very meaningful things, I think is like, yeah, something I really love and care for and believe in. Yeah.
I think that really shows in your work, because your comics, like I feel like at a first glance, they're like these cute, colorful drawings that seem warm and fuzzy or slimy, you know, but when you actually, you know, read your material and read into it, you discover all these layers to it. And like you said, you know, you're talking about things indirectly, but you are speaking about them. And you know, a lot of your comics, you talk about like your mental health, you talk about just like relationships with other people, and you know, if they're good or bad. You know, it's yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say all those things, because your work really does show those. And I think that's what makes your work so unique, is the fact that, you know, you look at it and you go, oh, it's like a crazy alien Cupie looking thing. And then you read it and you're like, whoa, this was a story about environmentalism and mental health and all these, you know, important topics that people don't normally speak about in this sort of fashion. You know, it's very direct, and you find a way to speak about these things without, you know, just a character coming out and being like, I have depression, or like, you know, like, it's not like you don't spell things out for the reader.
Yeah, I really like that. Like, it's like, I don't know, it's this way that you can like enter it. And like, it's the thing of science fiction that I really love is that you enter environments and worlds and narratives and storylines that you have to remove your assumptions of these people. You have to remove your assumptions of like you just have to be like, I don't know anything about this, and like I have to enter it with like that kind of like naivety, like, and just like be like, okay, now I'm gonna like see them as like just like this blank slate, and like, you know, discover and learn like what their customs are, like, you know, you don't even know if they like breathe the same air as you. Yeah, that's something I really really love. And like, you can, and then to like have something like so otherworldly and strange and you know, unidentifiable, but then there's still like this core like emotional or like tactile thing about them that like you relate to, and you can't really describe it or like, you know, feel, like you just feel and know what it is. And it's like, you know, things like, I'm really obsessed with like alien puberty, and like these kind of like, because like even when you go through puberty, you don't know what's happening, like, or what's going on. It's like all of these confusing things, but it's like you have to move through it. So things like that, like I really love. And I mean, even just like growing up, like I've always been asked by people like, what am I? So I just am like, well, I guess I'm, you know, an alien, and these are all like the world that I'll build, and no, like, you know, nobody's gonna ask me like what I am in this world. So those are all things like I really love and appreciate.
Yeah, I think it all shows in your work. I think your comics and ceramics and whatever else you put your mind to, I think your voice comes out.
Thanks, Cole.
Before we go, I just want to ask you, do you have any shout outs for artists or stores, and what are your future plans?
Okay, that's a lot. I guess shout out to Galen Sue, amazing artist, animator. Shout out to New, amazing artist. Shout out to Free Comics for sure. The Beguiling, Lucky's, Dunk. I'm gonna forget so many people. We already had a shout out to Jordan. Yeah, a lot more people.
Shout out to Will.
Will? Which Will?
Every Will. No.
Every Will.
Will Anderson for bringing us together.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to Will Anderson for like letting me make little comics in his like really cool newspaper, and like just like for Dunk existing, because that influenced Dog for sure. And shout out to Nieves. Oh, shout out to like all the publishers that have ever given me a chance and like were nice to me and made me feel good. Like Happiness Comics for sure, they're incredible. Leah like is such a good editor and like was really involved in the whole process of me making a comic for them. And Happiness was like one of my biggest influences. Like when I used to go to Lucky's, I bought the Happiness books, and they're just like the coolest anthology, I thought, or I think. And yeah, to Nieves, I can't believe I got to do a zine with them. And big shout out to Color Code for being the coolest and making my book. And I took like so long to make the work for it. Shout out to you and Kirsten. Yeah, a lot of people. But I'm nervous and rambling. So I'm going to stop doing that. Future plans. I don't know. I'm trying really hard to get back to a place of enjoying drawing and having it more of a personal thing. And it's hard to say future plans with like the pandemic has like really affected everything. But yeah, I hope that I can get to a place where I can kind of not see drawing as like anxiety inducing, and like I definitely had a really big burnout from doing a lot of like commissions and working with a lot of different people, which I really loved and appreciated. But I want to get to a place where I make a drawing and I don't have a mental breakdown. It'd be cool as hell. So I'm gonna try. I made like a drawing for my mom recently, and like that was really fun. So I want to try to like make drawings for family members and friends and stuff, and myself. I'm thinking about going back to school. Maybe, let's see. I'm working on like a proposal to do a ceramic show, or like maybe not show, but like to build a body of work of ceramic objects in response to my dad's artwork. Yeah, so that would be like a longer project and kind of like really personal, difficult work, but I'm excited about the potential of doing it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like all great plans. You know, you got to give yourself the right amount of time to do it all, and to, you know, give your mental health breathing space, especially, you know, when you work on that show with your dad's work. I'm sure that will be really heavy for you.
Yeah, even writing, like I'm trying to write a grant proposal for it, and like just crying so much because it's like, you know, dealing with trauma that has really shaped me that I've also like avoided for a really long time. So yeah, it seems important to do though.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you find a peace of mind making more work for family. I know I did when my dad came down and got his tattoo, and it was nice to just draw something for my dad and be like,
that's amazing.
It's only for him, it's for no one else, you know? And it's kind of like, it's not about sharing it publicly or making money off of it. It's just like a piece of art for, you know, family.
Yeah, exactly. I think I really want to get to that space, and like yeah, just making work for like more holistically and more more personal, and like kind of see where I can go from that, because I think it will be very different to, I don't know, I'll see. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what you make, and just want to say I love you and Christian, and I'm happy that you guys, you know, have decided to, you know, retire dog for the moment so you can just move on and do your own new things. I think that's, you know, probably for the best.
Oh, thank you.
You know, it sucks to think that I never contributed to a Dunk publication, but, you know, I'm still good friends with you guys, and you're still around. You'll still be making new work, you know. So
yeah, and like it's, for the time being, dog is put down, but hopefully we will you know, in the future maybe, because there's so many people like we wanted to work with. Like we had such a long list of like artists and friends, and like, you know, new people always come up. So yeah, I hope one day we could, once it's like a refresh relationship with it.
yeah, when the time's right.
Yeah, and we've got money.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to us talk, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the series of VanCAF interviews, and hopefully we'll all see you in a future that's safe and healthy, and we'll all be at a convention together, and we can all hug and shake hands.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Thanks so much for listening to me talk. and ramble. Thank you, Cole. I love you, and I love Kirsten and Goomba.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks VanCAF for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you so much, VanCAF. And
yeah, we love you, Papa VanCAF.
Papa Robin.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.